Continuing with the Viking Portable Library World Bible by Robert O. Ballou, in the section called The Hindu, and the chapter from the Hindu scriptures. And we turn now to How Many Gods? Then Vidagdha Sakalya asked him, "How many gods are there, O Yajnavalkya?" He replied with this formula: "As many as are mentioned in the formula of the hymn of praise addressed to the Vedavas, viz. 3 and 300, 3 and 3,000. Yes, he said, and asked again. See, devas, they're not talking about gods, they're talking angels. Yes, he said, and asked again, how many gods are there really, O Yajnavalkya? 33, he said. Yes, and asked again, how many gods are there really, O Yajnavalkya? 6, he said. Yes, and he asked again, how many gods are there really, O Yajnavalkya? 3, he said. Yes, he said, and asked again, how many gods are there really, O Yajnavalkya? 2, he said. Yes, he said, and asked again, how many gods are there really, O Yajnavalkya? 1.5. Avyarda was that idea. He said, yes. He said, and asked again, how many gods are there really, O Yajnavalkya? 1. He said, yes, he said, and asked, who are these 3 and 300, 3 and 3,000? Yajnavalkya replied, they are only the various powers. Amen to that. The light of men. Yajnavalkya came to Janaka Videha, particularly with just English lettering, no real transliteration. I'm not sure how to pronounce some of these things, so excuse me for that. And he did not mean to speak with him, but formerly when Janaka Videha and Yajnavalkya had a disputation on the Agnihotra, Yajnavalkya had granted him a boon, and chose that he might be free to ask him any question he liked. Yajnavalkya granted it, and thus the king was the first to ask him a question. Yajnavalkya, he said, what is the light of man? Yajnavalkya replied, the sun, O king. For having the sun alone is his light. Man sits, moves about, does his work, and returns. Janaka Videha said, oh, indeed, it is, O Yajnavalkya. When the sun has set, O Yajnavalkya, what then is the light of man? Yajnavalkya replied, the moon indeed is his light, for having the moon alone is his light. Man sits, moves about, does his work, and returns. Yajna Vedaha, so indeed it is, O Yajnavalkya. When the sun is set, O Yajnavalkya, and the moon has set, what is the light of man? Yajnavalkya replied, fire, indeed, is his light. For, having fire alone for his light, man sits, moves about, does his work, and returns. Janaka Vedaha said, when the sun has set, O Yajnavalkya, and the moon has set, and the fire is gone out, what then is the light of man? Yajnavalkya replied, sounds indeed. Sound indeed is his light. For having sound alone for his light, man sits, moves about, does his work, and returns. Therefore, O king, when one cannot see even one's hand, yet when a sound is raised, one goes towards it. Janaka Vedaha says, so indeed it is, O Yajnavalkya. When the sun has set, O Yajnavalkya, and the moon has set, and the fire is gone out, and the sound hushed, what is then the light of man? Yajnavalkya said, the self indeed is his light, for having the self alone is as his light, man sits, moves about, does his work, and returns. Janaka said, "Who is that self?" Yajnavalkya replied, "He who is within the heart, surrounded by the pranas," the senses. The person of light consisting of knowledge, and there are two states for that person, the one here in this world and the other in the other world. And as a third, an intermediate state, the state of sleep. When in that intermediate state he sees both these states together, the one here in this world and the other in the other world. If a man clearly beholds this self as Brahman, as the Lord of all that is and will be, then he is no more afraid. This eternal being that can never be proved is to be perceived in one way or another. It is spotless beyond the ether, the unborn self, great and eternal. Let a wise Brahmana, after he has discovered him, practice wisdom. Let him not seek after many words, for that is mere weariness of the tongue. And certainly it's something that once you know you are soul, it's not really something you can empirically prove, but it's not something you can deny once you've experienced it. Myself within the heart. All this is Brahmana. Let a man meditate on the visible world as a beginning, ending, and breathing in it. The Brahman. Now man is a creature of will, according to what his will is in this world. So will he be when he has departed this life. Let him therefore have his will and belief. The intelligent whose body is spirit, whose form is light, whose thoughts are true, whose nature is like ether, omnipresent and invisible, from whom all works, all desires, all sweet odors and tastes proceed. He who embraces all this, who never speaks, and is never surprised, he is myself within the heart, smaller than a corn of rice, smaller than a corn of barley, smaller than a mustard seed, smaller than a canary seed, or the kernel of a canary seed. He also is myself within the heart, greater than the earth, greater than the sky, greater than heaven, greater than all these worlds. He from whom all works, all desires, all sweet odors, all tastes proceed, who embraces all this, who never speaks, and who is never surprised. He, myself within the heart, is that Brahman. When I shall have departed hence, I shall obtain him, that self. And he who has this faith has no doubt. Thus said Sandilya, yes, yea, thus he said. And God is in me, I am in God, but none of this is God or part of God. The sun is Brahman. Well, Brahman's actually a more versatile word than just God. Aditya, the sun, is Brahman. Because there was Surya, the sun itself, and Aditya, the spirit of the sun, which could be the angel of the sun in that culture. But this is the doctrine, and that is the fuller account of it. In the beginning, this was non-existent. It became existent. It grew. It turned into an egg. The egg lay for the time of a year. The egg broke open. The two halves were one of silver, the other of gold. The silver one became this earth, the golden one the sky, the thick membrane of the white the mountain, the thin membrane of the yolk the mist within the clouds, the small veins the rivers, the fluid the sea. And what was born from it? That was Aditya, the sun. There's a lot of egg myths about the creation. But what does that mean? Or what can it metaphorically refer to in a truthful sense? The education of Svetaketu. Hari Om. There lived once Svetaketu Aruneya, the grandson of Aruna. To him his father, Udalaka, the son of Aruna, said, Svetaketu, Svetaketu, go to school, for there is none belonging to our race, darling, who not having studied the Veda, is, as it were, a Brahmana by birth only. Having begun his apprenticeship with the teacher when he was 12 years of age, Svetaketu returned to his father when he was 24, having then studied all the Vedas, conceited, considering himself well-read and stern. His father said to him, Svetaketu, as you are so conceited, considering yourself so well-read and so stern, my dear, have you ever asked for that instruction by which we hear what cannot be heard, by which we perceive what cannot be perceived, by which we know what cannot be known? What is that instruction, sir? He asked. The father replied, my dear, as by one clod of clay, all that is made of clay is known, the difference being only a name arising from speech, but the truth being that all is clay, and as, my dear, by one nugget of gold, all that is made of gold is known, the difference being only a name arising from speech, but the truth being all that is gold, and as, my dear, by one pair of nail scissors, all that is made of iron is known, the difference being only a name arising from speech, but the truth being that all is iron. Thus, my dear, that is that instruction. Jumbled the word order, I don't know why. The son said, surely those venerable men, my teachers, did not know that. For if they had known it, why should they not have told it me? Do you, sir, therefore tell me that? Be it so, said the father. In the beginning, my dear, there was that only which is, one only, without a second. It thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. It sent forth fire. That fire thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. It sent forth water, and therefore whenever anybody, wherever, is hot and perspires, water is produced on him from fire alone. Water thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. It sent forth earth, food. Therefore, whenever it rains anywhere, most food is then produced. From water alone is edible food produced. As the bees, my son, make honey by collecting the juices of the distant trees and reduce the juice into one form, and as these juices have no discrimination, so that they may say, I am the juice of this tree or that, in the same manner, my son, all these creatures, when they have become merged in the true, either in deep sleep or in death, know not that they are merged in the true. Whatever these creatures are here, whether a lion, or a wolf, or a boar, or a worm, or a midge, or a gnat, or a mosquito, that they become again and again. Now that which is subtle essence in it all that exists has itself. It is the true, it is the self, and thou, O Svetaketu, art it. Please, sir, inform me still more. Said the son, be it so, my child. The father replied, these rivers, my son, run the eastern like the Ganga towards the east, the western like the Sindhu towards the west. They go from sea to sea, i.e., the clouds lift up the water from the sea to the sky and send it back as rain to the sea. They become indeed sea. And as those rivers, when they are in the sea, do not know, I am this or that river. In the same manner, my son, all these creatures, when they have come back from the true, know not that they have come back from the true. Whether these creatures are here, whether a lion, or a wolf, or a boar, or a worm, or a midge, or a gnat, or a mosquito, that they become again and again that which is that subtle essence in it all that exists has a self. It is the true, it is the self. And thou, a Svetaketu, art it. Please, sir, inform me still more, said the son. son with an O. Be it so, my child, the father replied. If someone were to strike at the root of this large tree here, it would bleed, but live. If he were to strike at its stem, it would bleed, but live. If he were to strike at its top, it would bleed, but live. Pervaded by the living self, that tree stands firm, drinking in its nourishment and rejoicing. But if the life, the living self, leaves one of its branches, that branch withers. If it leaves a second, that branch withers. If it leaves a third, that branch withers. If it leaves the whole tree, then the whole tree withers. In exactly the same manner, my son, know this body indeed withers and dies when the living self has left it. The living self dies not. That which is that subtle essence, in it all that exists, has itself. It is the true, it is the self, and thou, Svetaketu, art it. The power of God. Those who know the high Brahman, the vast hidden in the bodies of all creatures, and alone enveloping everything as the Lord, they become immortal. Some wise men, deluded, speak of nature, and others of time as the cause of everything. But it is the greatness of God by which this Brahma wheel is made to turn. It is as at the command of him who always covers this world, the knower, the time of time, who assumes qualities and all knowledge. It is at his command that this work, creation, unfolds itself, which is called earth, water, fire, air, and ether. He who, after he has done that work and rested again, and after he has brought together one essence, the self, with the other, matter, with 1, 2, 3, or 8, with time also, and with the subtle qualities of the mind, who after starting the work endowed with the 3 qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, maybe, can order all things, yet when, in the absence of all these, he has caused the destruction of the work, goes on, being in truth different from all that he has produced. He is the beginning, producing the causes which unite the soul with the body, and being above the 3 kinds of time, past, present, future, he is seen as without parts. After we have first worshipped that adorable God, who has many forms, who's realized through the many forms, and who is the true source of all things, as dwelling in our own mind. He is the one God, hidden in all beings, all-pervading, the self within all beings, watching over all works, dwelling in all beings, the witness, the perceiver, the only one, free from qualities. He is the one ruler of many, who seem to act, but really do not act. He makes the one seed manifold. The wise who perceive him within their self, to them belongs eternal happiness, not to others. He is the eternal among eternals, the thinker among thinkers, who through one fulfills the desires of many. He who has known that cause which is to be apprehended by Samkhya, philosophy, and Yoga, religious discipline. He is freed from all fetters. The sun does not shine there, nor the moon, and the stars, nor these lightnings, and much less this fire. When he shines, everything shines after him. By his light, all this is lightened. He makes all, he knows all, the self-caused, the knower, the time of time, who assumes qualities and knows everything, the master of nature and of man, the Lord of the 3 qualities, the cause of the bondage, their existence, and the liberation of the world. Seeking for freedom, I go for refuge to that God, who is the light of his own thoughts, he who first creates Brahman and delivers the Vedas to him, who is without parts, without actions, tranquil, without fault, without taint, the highest bridge to immortality, like a fire that has consumed its fuel, Only when men shall roll up the sky like a hide will there be an end of misery, unless God has first been known. Fighting each other with nuclear weapons? Is that it?